Yo, what up? This is Bryce Vine. Make sure you check out my interview with my boy On Air with David Duane right now. Go listen.
So Bryce, it has been a minute since we have chatted, bro.
Yeah,
How you been?
man, not too bad. Just I think my work ethic is getting the better of me because I went straight from the tour, which was great, to in the studio writing new stuff, and I feel my mind is starting to melt a little bit. So I think it might be time for a vacation at some point.
You need to take one because you've been like nonstop. I mean, not even just with the Serotonin EP, which I've got to say, congratulations. The
Thank you.
success of Drew Barrymore is still going crazy. I still think about the first conversation that we had, and then me just connecting with you and connecting with Matt, and just where that single was. And it was just getting warmed up. But now it's like the strain still on that record is absolutely crazy. And La La Land, now I'm also in La La Land too, which is so look at that.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. I grew up doing music, and like you see artists come and go your whole life, and in the industry come and go, and it's like, how do you not become just another who was story? I think like one of the things that people made a mistake with is they like stop releasing music when they have a big song.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I see that happen a lot, and I don't understand that because you were making music and putting it out before the big song. So why would you stop after the big songs? It's almost like you're admitting that you're no better than your single, which to me is like mind blowing. I write this stuff, partially for me too. Now it's for other people, but it's like I couldn't understand that. So as long as you just keep, pushing stuff out, like through the whole pandemic, I was like releasing EPs, and now serotonin. Yeah, you got to do that, like so. And now it's translating because the crowds are getting bigger anyway. Drew Barrymore is 4 years old. So I think that's like a big thing that, really is like help people stay at the shows.
And it's kind of crazy how time has flown when you say 4 years has it's been since Drew Barrymore has released. You stayed busy during the pandemic, which Bryce, I want to say thank you for doing that during the pandemic, because there was a lot of artists that were not dropping at all. People were like, remember that one period of time where everybody was like, I'm just going to drop like during the summertime, and then it was like the fall time. It was like every other release was coming out. You were just
Oh yeah, you're
like,
right.
what
Actually, yeah,
the?
there was a minute. It's weird. There was a lot of like we all went through this like weird period of grief, and there were different stages to the uh like the first couple months of the pandemic. I remember like right when it started and we were all just sitting at home, there was really nothing to do. Like there was like you were
Nothing.
just sitting there, and like then all of a sudden Netflix started like being like, oh my God, like let's give them all this stuff to watch during and it was like Tiger King came out, and then like Too Hot to Handle, and all these like just abrasive for shows for your attention.
It was a lot. It was a lot of series going on. I was like, I don't know what this Netflix series is, but I'm going to check out at least one. Had gotten to Never Have I Ever, the Maylee Kaylin series, a little bit. It's a really good one. They're
Okay.
about to end it, but that was the only one I was able to get into
It
because it was just so much.
was weirdly like like the start of a golden age of streaming at the same time that everybody was like stuck at home. Go figure.
Because there wasn't even a lot of streaming platforms television wise even then. But then now, as we're, you know, people like to say
Even
it's not
TikTok wasn't
happening.
that big at the top,
Oh yeah, no.
you know? And now there's an entire music industry. I'll tell you that it's a multi-million dollar, probably billion-dollar company that is completely reliant on me and my friend making funny videos to promote a song.
Mm.
It's it's like some idiocracy world.
It's insane. How have you been enjoying being on TikTok? Because I know you're on there.
I enjoy it sometimes when I come up with an idea, just like I do when I'm writing, like if you come up with something funny or fun or interesting, or compelling, like, yeah, it's fun, but that's not how I'm supposed to use it as far as like the label is concerned. They want you to be doing content just for the sake of content, just to have your face and your name out there and promoting yourself. Constant competition with other people. Make this video, make 10 pieces of content this week. It's like, dude, what? I'm not an
Right.
influencer. I'm supposed to be influential. I'm an artist. You know, I still can't really like wrap my head around how the entire industry is completely dependent on a Chinese application for any kind of promotion. They won't do anything with a song unless it's popping on TikTok. I'm like, what did y'all do in 2019 for a song when it was really good and it had potential? Oh, you actually had to work? Oh, got it.
Right. And now it's actually showing that people actually have to work. And I like the fact that you said you want to be influential. You don't want to be an influencer. I think that's a lost art that is happening with artists, but you have such an understanding of that because your music has always been so real.
Thank you. I don't know, man. Yeah, that's how I know how to be. And I keep always trying to remind myself to be real, even when I think I'm not being. If I go back and watch an interview, I'm like, Jesus Christ, you sound like a tool. Like, I remember that, you know, you don't give yourself any breaks either. At least I don't. Like, you know, so like if I start writing from a perspective that I don't really have, or like trying to make a TikTok that is like, you know, I feel
Yeah.
a little Uncle Tommy, and I'm like, that's just not
Then it
gonna.
doesn't feel like organic to you, and then it doesn't come off that way to others as well. They're like, wait a minute, why is Bryce doing this content? Why is David doing this? This is very off brand.
Yeah, it's just it feels like it's so big it's about to break. Like there's no way that this can continue, all this content coming at you all the time, and like having to compete with all the content makers, and some of which don't do anything but that. So like how are you ever going to compete with people who only do that? I don't know. It's a weird thing to me, but I just stopped trying. I realized I'm like, yeah, I don't actually have to do this. I'll just come up with stuff like I always do. Same thing with releasing music. I don't have to write a huge single to put out music. I just have to write good music and the fans will join. And, you know, it's just, I could tell you, it's just, I could go on and on about it because it has been so prevalent in this year, especially with how things work. And I think it's going to bite people in the ass, especially like record labels.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
you know,
because I
because they're
think
going to kind of render themselves obsolete.
at this point, I feel like they are, especially with the aspect of what you said, like, oh, do all this content, do all this content. No, like it's too much. And I think that you've always had a good sense of what content works with you, like you and your creative team, you know, whether it's the tour recaps to the photos to, you know, posting interviews and you just, that in itself is enough. We don't have to be on social media at all times.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it just depends on what you want, you know. It definitely helps, you know. Having 200,000 followers won't get you the same opportunities as having a million. So,
Mhm.
you know, it depends on, oops, depends on what you want, and that's okay, you know. Anyway, but music's good, Serotonin's out, and I'd like, you know, again, just want to keep releasing good music. I got another one coming out in like a week. I like to go places to write. Obviously a lot of people like to travel, but like I'll just walk around. I was in Argentina and Uruguay over Christmas and New Year's last year because December is like the only month that you really get a break. I spent just like walking around, taking my time, writing one song, taking everything in, like just one song. I wasn't worried about writing a bunch. Just like I had this little melody thing in my head and just wrote the lyrics every day as I walked around Palermo and uh Don, what is it called? There's a little Don Ignacio, Uruguay, and just like and wrote the song. And then when I brought it back here, um, everybody loved it, and it's like possibly going to be another song with a DJ collab. And it's like that's the way I want to do things. That's
Wow.
a cool way to do it.
And I think that that's the way that people should just think about music and just focus on just writing that one record. And it doesn't have to be the record that's the big single, but it could just be that one record that could impact, because your music has been impactful. And I've heard the new single, "The Kids Are All Right." And
Oh, you heard it already?
oh yeah, of course I heard it. But yo, it sounds really good. The mix sounds crazy. I was like, oh, this is it. This is one of those it records. Writing that record for you, how was it? And just being in that space, because you have I'm Not All Right. Now you got
The Kids Are Not All Right.
Right. Was that intentional, or did it just kind of happen that way with the title?
No, that wasn't intentional. I didn't even realize that till right now. That's funny. Nobody's all right, apparently. I'm not all right, you're not all right, and the kids aren't all right, so no one is all right. That'll be the next one. Nobody is okay.
Nobody's okay.
It was actually one of the first, for a while, like I wasn't really writing by myself anymore. It became like a job, and you're writing in sessions, mostly with people that I like work well with, like my buddy JP, who I wrote La La Land with. But I wasn't writing by myself very much, and that's like how I started writing. So I went into the studio with just a producer named Royal Z, and he already had the chords down for this idea. And we had been talking for at least 20 minutes before we started making music at all about how we had both been trying to not use the things that we had been prescribed for a long time.
I know the feeling.
You know, depression medication, ADD stuff, and we just had very similar background stories on that. And how easy it is to prescribe people things whether they need it or not, and just how huge this legal drug dealing system is, a pharmaceutical industry. And it's one that, like, I don't like to ever really talk about negative stuff or things that, like, I know are going to put people on one side of an argument or another. I like talking about things that I feel like, no, we all should agree that there is something really, really wrong with the way the pharmaceutical industry works.
Ooh, yes, it is.
Know? And and you see it, and you see the physical evidence with people losing their minds, and you know it's because it's a mix of pharmaceutical things that they shouldn't or definitely don't need to take forever, and whatever else they're taking, and there's nobody doing anything about it. So yeah, we were just talking about that, and I started coming up with, I was like, man, the kids are not all right. And that's how the song came to be. And it was the first song I wrote all by myself, and God, years before that. And now I'm starting to enjoy it again.
Wow. And I gotta say, I can relate on the subject of just being one that was once on medication. I was diagnosed with ADD and ADHD when I was in the second grade. So for me, from second grade on to senior year in high school, when those final exams were done, Bryce, I was like, it's a wrap. I literally had to pull myself off of that. But then I want to say by middle school, I had just started taking antidepressants because I felt myself being depressed. And that was the only thing that I had said, all right, let's go ahead and do this. But once I got older, I was like, no, we got to pull back on this. So I can relate to even your story with having to say, I got to depend on myself, and I have to really become the person who I am and not take this medication, because if I can't identify with who I am outside of this, I truly won't know at all.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for sharing that. It's definitely useful to see yourself, raw, to really know how that is. And I think a lot of it is when you just mask stuff. Very similar, a lot of people I know, me included, and it's just like, yeah, it's kind of important to know, like, your raw self, so if you need it or not. I'm not saying that nobody needs these medications. Like, there is a chemical thing to some people's brains that doesn't allow them to produce as much serotonin, and that sucks. And it's nice to have a boost, to have a baseline, where you won't go too low. And but that can also be achieved by things that they don't tell you about. Like you can take 5-HTP and you could take, all these, if you're getting depressed, a lot of times you're vitamin depleted in some way.
Oh yeah,
Which they don't mention. They just give you, hey, take some Zoloft, whatever it is, and
definitely take Zoloft. Be like, here, there you go. Be like, no, I don't like it.
well, they could get to charge you for it. They don't get to charge you for 5-HTP and for vitamin D when a lot of people have that deficiency, especially people that live on the East Coast and like you go through those winters and you don't, you don't see the sun and you're like, I'm depressed. I need Prozac. And it's like, well, no, you need some sun or you need some vitamin D. Uh, that's what I've come to think about. Maybe.
Yeah, and I think that that's the most important thing for people to just realize naturally what you need in life. Because I know for me, being from Delaware and being on the East Coast, and with you have going to school on the East Coast as well too, it's like you understand like it gets cold and it gets brutal. So you need more than just that cold climate. You need actual sunlight. You need to actually go out for walks. You need to be actually eating well. And I think that's a big thing too that I just said. A lot of people aren't eating well, so they don't feel naturally well on top of that.
Yeah. I mean, one thing TikTok has done is like opened up all the curtains for like every shady thing in every single business, including the food and
oh my gosh, yeah.
and dairy and political systems and everything. No wonder they want to shut that shit down.
Yeah, it's definitely been a lot to see on TikTok. You'd be like, wait, what? That's what they're doing with the food? Is that
Yeah.
no.
Bro, I just saw one the other day I had no idea about. Like, and I thought I was pretty aware that when you go to like some grocery stores, there's a certain kind of edible glue that they use to mesh pieces of meat together to make them seem like one piece of meat.
What?
Yeah,
Oh, you
they
gotta
show
send
you
that
how
to
it
me.
works. Huh?
So you gotta send that to me. I
Oh,
have to see it.
I couldn't believe it. Yeah, they just messing with us, like they're experimenting with us on a regular basis. I don't trust nobody, bro. I'm still gonna eat,
Yeah.
but I don't trust nobody with this shit. So you just like, again, vitamins, certain kind of teas can help relieve
Oh,
that.
yeah.
And
Are you a big tea drinker?
not really, but
No.
I know ones like moringa tea is supposed to be really, really, and it has helped like on the rare occasions. I don't like hot drinks. I never have. Like I don't like
Okay.
hot coffee. I don't, yeah. It just doesn't.
So I
If
need
I'm
a
gonna have
I need a
something
cold
hot
drink.
and wet, it's gonna be soup.
Yeah. I've always been like, I need to have like a cold drink myself, even when it's like brick outside and everything else. People are so mad at me. Like, why are you having ice with your drink if you're going to go outside and it's cold? I don't care, damn it. It needs to be cold. Why do I want warm? I don't want warm water, damn
You
it.
say, huh? Yeah,
And I
man.
got to say, this project has been such a therapeutic. It's giving that nostalgia sound. Speaking of nostalgia that's on the project, I love that record. That record for you, how was it just being able to like kick off the project with this? But honestly, not even just kick off the project with it, but get into the vibe of it. Even you're even dancing as I'm talking about it. So, because it's a vibe.
Yeah, that was the first song that I wrote on the Serotonin EP. It was like I knew that was what the vibe of the next project was. I didn't know what it was called yet, but yeah, I knew it. It's just I'm a super nostalgic person. I'm trying to train myself now not to look back on it like my youth is in like a sorrowful way. 'Cause for a while I was doing that. It was like nothing would beat it. I never felt happier than I did then. And
Yeah.
that's always then is always wherever I'm not at right now. And I'm like, I've never been more successful in my life, and I've never had more people showing up to shows, and my friends and family are like never been in like a better place, a lot of them. So it's like I should be looking at that as like a gratitude thing and grateful for the past
Oh, for sure.
instead of looking at it longingly. But because of COVID, it's so hard to not look at the pre-COVID world as, you know, there's a longing for it,
Mm-hmm.
because it had the world itself has just only gotten stranger and more stressful.
Yeah. I feel like it's gotten a lot more stressful, even like for myself. I feel like before this pandemic, things were a little bit more like at ease, but now we're really seeing people's personalities at like different levels that we've never seen it at, or depression just hitting at like a really weird all time. And it's at random moments where you're like, wait, what the hell just happened? And people literally have to walk away and disconnect themselves in that moment.
Well, the whole world went through trauma at the exact same time. That's never happened before.
Yeah.
You know, it was a traumatic experience to just be locked up for 3 weeks to flatten the curve. That turns into 3 years. It was a stressful situation, and everyone, like, if you didn't die and you didn't have someone that died, you were still stuck in this limbo that had no ending. And yeah, like, I think a lot of people are still recovering from that.
Yeah. How would you say your mental health was during that time, and just being able to stay sane as much as you could and just stay encouraged?
I didn't do a very good job.
No.
I didn't do a very good job staying encouraged and upbeat. No, I was whiny and depressed and uh bitter for a lot of it. Complain, even while all this people are going through really, really bad stuff, and comparatively, I'm fine. Uh, that was like really when I tried to go off the medication too, because I had nowhere to be and nothing to do anyway. So we might as well like experiment with my brain chemistry. Why not? And that really wasn't a good idea. But then I started finding hobbies. I think a lot of people did. I was talking to someone about this yesterday. I think COVID was great because we were also go, 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 go for a while. Did I just say COVID was great? COVID was a learning experience because people found hobbies. There was things I didn't know that I liked to do. I didn't really have any hobbies until I was forced to during COVID. I don't know if you started doing anything at that point.
I don't think I started doing anything myself. I think I was more so just trying to like figure out the structure of work in media, because I have my PR agency as well too. I don't think know that I have that too. So I was more so like, okay, how are we going to do this interview? How are we doing this? How am I conducting my content? So I was like, go, 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 go. And I was in the house. I was already in the house, but I was like, this is not good. Like, I can't even go to a damn show.
Yeah.
But what were some of those hobbies? Because I know you were definitely missing being able to connect with your fans. Because one thing that you're going to do, Bryce, you going to kill a show. You going to kill a show.
Damn right.
But first, you're going to sell that bitch out first, most importantly. Yeah. You do this, but you do that.
It's because I've seen acts not do anything with that moment that they're given to like get their fans. That's how we built it, man.
Yeah.
We've all seen openers that we completely forgot about. I was just really determined not to be one of them because I didn't come up through the internet, really. It was just opening for different people, which I still suggest is the best way because, like, my dad always says, people don't necessarily remember what you said, what you did, but they remember how you made them feel. So you just like, cool. If I'm making these people feel good when they come here and relieving them of the stress of the monotony of life, even for just an hour, and it's about them and the lights and the songs and singing all along to your fellow man and standing close together and sweating, like, yeah, that's memorable. We all need that. I do that on a daily basis when I try to go to like hot yoga and stuff. It's the same thing. Like, you need that release. So if I can be that for them, then they'll keep coming back, and they do.
So was hot yoga something you were doing before the
That was one. Nope, that was.
that's one. What else did you get into?
Started cooking. I didn't know I can really cook. My grandmother was great at it. She was Italian, and she used to make us food all the time. And after she passed, I was the only one that she had taught some of her recipes to, and I hadn't really taken the time to try them out, and I was great at it.
So you in the kitchen chefing?
Yeah, I was at that time. Yeah, I mean, now that I'm back on the road and stuff like that. It was like a period, and I would, after like the first 2 months of COVID, then people started to like come back out a little bit. Like, can I go to my friend's house now? And yeah, so I would have friends over, and I would like cook for them, and it was really nice. It was like a nice thing that I would have never gotten to do if it weren't for COVID, because I was never home.
Yeah. Because you are constantly always on the road. And what's great about your journey, Bryce, you started out doing a lot of college shows and doing smaller room venues.
Yeah.
And you even still do college shows, and they keep calling, they keep calling, they keep calling. How was that for you being able to still connect with the youth as you get older and still as you're still youthful?
I suggest getting into the college realm for anybody that listens to this that wants to be an artist and doesn't know their footstep in. There's like conventions that they have around the country where you like play like for 10 minutes, and all these college reps are there, and they decide if they're going to book you for their college. It's one of them is called NACA, but anyway, we did this like 10 years ago. My agent put me in that right when we started working together, and it's still to this day the best thing that has happened, because you get to reach these young people immediately, and that's what I remember. That's when I'm making memories that I'm going to last forever. That's when I'm deciding what artists are going to be my favorite forever, that I attach to memories and the best times of my life. So it's really important to be a part of that. Like, there's no more important time to be heard by your fans than when they're young.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they always say get them when they're young, but to me that just sounds weird. But you got to get them while they're making the memories that they're going to be nostalgic about.
Right. And I feel like that's important, because then that way they're able to identify with themselves, like, okay, this is somebody who I can relate to. This I cannot relate to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're kind of deciding who they are too, and what they want to take away from all the things that are coming at them on a regular basis, and how they identify. So yeah, man, it's honestly always great. Like, I love playing college shows. It's some of my favorite shows to do.
Yeah.
And they're so different, all of them. And you see parts of the country that you would never have known about. Never have known about. Like Elkins, West Virginia. I've been there twice. I don't think a lot of people can say that.
How was the University of Delaware show that you went to? I was so mad that I had found out that you were in Delaware, because I would have came. How was that show? And just
I'm trying to even remember when that was.
it was a little bit ago.
Well, then that's too late. Yeah, I remember when I get to places, if I've been there again.
Yeah.
But I've probably played like close to like 300-400 colleges at this point. No, that's not true.
That's
I played 300 to 400 college shows, not colleges.
But still, that in itself is impressive. A lot of people can't say they've done that. A lot of people can just say, oh yeah, I've opened for this artist, and then I've opened, and then I've opened. The next thing I know, I made a thing happen, and now I'm headlining. But you actually,
Oh my gosh, I remember one time we were playing at it was like before anyone knew who I was, but we got a chance to open for French Montana and T.I. in Connecticut. I've never been booed off stage, because I won't get off. I'll just like start talking shit or something. But all of our gear fell suddenly because they didn't put the right structure up on stage, and they were already not feeling it. Like, it was the crowd for French Montana and T.I., and they're hearing like Sour Patch Kids and like, who the fuck is this guy? Like, and then we got booed. That was the only time, and I was like, the last thing I said before I left stage, I was like, no wonder Dave Chappelle left, because it was all because of Connecticut. It was a show in Connecticut that he left, went to fucking Africa to get away from all of us. That was big.
that's funny. And I remember hearing about that story too. How did you, in that moment, how did you just keep the energy going with something like that? Because equipment not being mounted and being stationary the way that it should, That
It
could have an
stopped
artist.
everything. It stopped the music. It's not like I could keep
Yeah.
playing. At that point, you're just talking until someone says, "No, we can't fix this. Time for you to get off stage." I used to, when I was especially in college, like I would just sit there on my laptop. I loved watching comedians handle hecklers. I loved it. It was such a because it made it so much more fun. Like you could still take that not seriously too, you know? So even when there was a couple times I would open for like somebody super fratty, like at the time Mike Stud, who's actually redeveloped his sound really well. But
Completely.
I was like first of four at a Mike Stud show, and I remember it was all bros and like tank tops and hats, and they thought they were sick. And like and there was one point I just stopped the music and I was just like, you guys realize you're all wearing the same thing, right? And it lightened everything up. It did. It lightened everything up, like people stopped staring at me like this for a second. And
So, how would you say this tour experience was for you, Bryce, versus the previous tours and being able to get back out on the road? Because I know you were just coming off a tour when the pandemic was happening, right?
yeah, March 2020, we were doing the first European headline tour. And by the time we were playing shows in Germany, the record label people stopped coming. And we were like, uh-oh. Uh-oh, this isn't good. And it was like a week after we got back from Barcelona that everything shut down. And then obviously we didn't tour for like a year and a half. And then we were some of the first people out as soon as the water was a little less murky, you know? Personally, I was like never afraid of COVID because I had it like right at the top before they even knew like side effects like losing your taste
Right.
and smell. So I wasn't afraid of it, but band members and their families and stuff, you got to be mindful of it. But you also realize like people have free will. So if we put tour tickets on sale and they don't sell, it means people are still uncomfortable and they want to stay home. And if we put tour tickets on sale and they do sell, it means people are ready to get the fuck out. So
Right.
did it. They came. It was still a little murky at the time, and like the crowds weren't huge, but we needed to get back out there and they needed something to do.
Yeah.
And then that was like 2021, like the top of 2021. And then this last tour was the first one where there's no more murk in the water,
It was
everyone's
deep.
ready to go. Yeah, it was needed.
And
Everyone's ready
every
to go. But we put ourselves in bigger rooms than I've ever been in before. And I was a little nervous because I'm still that kid that thinks that nobody's going to show up to the show, in
you
my
really
brain.
think that?
In my
Bryce?
brain, well, you just wonder. You just are like, I think that'll never go away, but it's always a pleasant surprise. It'll never get old.
Yeah.
I was playing with a punk band in a backyard of a friend's house in high school to now, playing for thousands of people. You can't help but have some of that, like, if there's even 10 people here, that'll be amazing. you know? And yeah, and pretty much all of them sold out, which was great. We had a great time. Tour is really fun. It's also really tiring, but it's so fun. You see so many places so quickly. You wake up in a new city every day, which I think is a lot of people's dream, but there's a lot of monotony involved because such a small amount of each day is actually the show. There's like
Right.
getting to the venue, setting everything up, going through all the sound system things that they do in the front of house to where we're on stage sound checking the mic, and then doing the meet and greet, and then doing the meet and greet after the show. And there's so much that comes between. By the time you actually get to the show, it's just an hour and a half portion of it. And then you move on to the next place. it's definitely an interesting job.
It's a lot of preparation. I don't think that people really understand how much logistic go into actually a tour. Of course, the dates get booked, but then you're arranging travel and accommodations and per diems, and then who do we have for sound? Who do we have for lights? What creatives are we doing? What do we do on stage exactly?
I think it's just interesting, when people realize it's just interesting, like any other career. Like I don't know the ins and outs of pretty much any other career, except for the ones that I've done. I know what it's like to be a Lyft driver. I know what it's like to work at a bar, and I know what it's like to be a juicer. But other than that, I don't know the ins and outs of even being a desk person in a dental office, and I'm sure there's a lot of ins and outs of that too. It's just my job is a lot more interesting to people.
Right. And you had those jobs like literally right before everything started to hit for you.
Yeah, about a year before I got the last job I had was maybe like a year before Drew Barrymore came out, because I was like playing enough college shows finally where like I didn't have to do like a day job anymore, which was already like, whoa, insane, and I'm like, I'm not young at this point in my career. I've been like 8 years into making music, and now I'm finally not doing Lyft or working in a bar. And then for a while, I just dedicated every single day to like making a routine, because it's so hard for us people with ADD to actually have a routine, you know? So I like forced it. I was like, okay, if this is going to happen, because I had met every label at this point by now, and some of them had treated me nicely, but didn't sign me. And some of them treated me like, a throwaway. And the one that really changed it though was meeting the head of I think it was Capital. Yeah, there was a old British white dude heading that label at that point that he wasn't gonna get me even if he did like me, because we are not anywhere near the same age, race, background. We have nothing in common. I highly doubt that you like me. And he was a total asshole. And he wasn't even the one who offered me the deal. It was somebody else in the building. And he took it away, which he didn't need to do. It was almost
What?
spiteful. Yeah. And from that moment on, I was like, fuck all of y'all. And I just went to the studio every day for, I'd say like 6 months. The first 3 months was just trying to like make anything good and starting to enjoy it again and not going out. I didn't want to go out after a couple months. I just wanted to be here, and I would just sit here and have the time of my life and maybe go to dinner with friends every once in a while. But that was it for 6 months. I just right here. And then I got Drew Barrymore and La La Land and a couple of the other ones from Carnival. We released Drew Barrymore independently because, again, nobody had signed me. And all of a sudden, I remember the day, man, because I was so used to, I got a call from, I think it was Geffen was the first one. And I was so used to going into labels and then not giving a shit that I walked in, like I was still in the clothes I wore to sleep. Like I hadn't brushed my teeth or anything. I'm like, I know how this is going to go. They're going to be like, well, you're not really rapping. You're not really pop. And we don't really understand what lane you're in and blah, blah, blah. They bring in the whole team. They bring in the entire team, and the head of the label goes, here's the deal. I think you're a star and I want to sign you. I'm like, let me go brush my teeth.
Like, I'll be right back for one moment.
Yeah. Yeah, but the person that really changed it was her name was Rainey Hancock. She's still to this day like my biggest fan. She went to a different label after COVID, but she was the one that really, like, she heard Drew Barrymore and she was like, I'm gonna make this song big. And so I went with her. She was just starting a new label too, so there was like no guarantees for either of us. I was her first sign on a new label, and it was our first big hit together, both of us separately and together. So yeah, man, changed. Life was so different after that, just completely different.
And I think even how you just reflected on that moment and how life changed for you is so inspiring, because a lot of people don't understand that you have to be determined and stay in the game, even when somebody's saying no and they're trying to take opportunities from you. Because if you don't stay on it, you won't receive what will be meant for you.
You have to look at it like, if you can't handle the rejection now, before any of this happens for you, you're not going to be able to handle the rejection that comes after you've had success. That happens too, you know? But yeah, man, but retrospect is always easier, but I always tell people like to just make it because they love to do it, and make something that is, speaks from them, and then do it every single day for 6 months.
Yeah.
I always say, yeah, either tell them a routine, read, which no one really ever is probably going to do. But
I don't think anybody likes reading anymore.
I even, for like, there was a while every day I had to like get through pages, at least look at words. But right lately, I've been a little lazy with it. But the routine was go to the gym in the morning, run for like 15 minutes, go in the sauna for 10 to read, go to the studio and suck at writing for like weeks, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. All of a sudden, your brain chemistry starts turning the other way. It works. Like, it really does work.
And I was just telling an artist just the other day that if you're not a good writer right now, even if that is not your, like your strength, right? You can become at least decent enough as a writer or whatever you put your mind to. And crazy thing they said to me, Bryce, they're like, but some people have gifts and some people have passions. And I said, that is very true. But if you apply yourself, you can be good at something. You don't have to be the best of the best. And the best of the best isn't always the fucking best.
I think that's great advice. Yeah. It takes a lot of the pressure off too, that like to know that even if what you exactly think how things are supposed to go, they don't have to go that way for you to still be able to be successful. Like everybody's journey is different. And as long as you focus on being good at one thing, and like, there's things that I'm really lazy about, and there's things that I won't take. I won't cheapen it, and I think as long as you have that one thing that you're like, really, it's really important for you to do this really, really well, then you'll be okay. Yeah, you'll figure it out.
And I like the fact that you said that you've been taking that time to just write on your own and being able to just get to that space. Because even me with my own artistry, right? I've been writing on my own, no co-writers. I'm like, let me just get into how I feel. And even if the song is not finished, this one particular song, like you said, hey, I'm going to get away and work on this one song. And everybody's going to really love this song when they hear it, Bryce. I can tell you right now, because you just have such a sound, and you've always had this as you've gone on along in your journey, right? You've had this sound and you've had this message, and you've had messages within your music where people can say to themselves, I'm just like Bryce, or my friend is just like Bryce. And when you write it yourself versus having writers, it just comes off so authentic. Not saying anything is wrong with writers writing for artists, but writing it yourself it's uncut. It's raw. And that's what people love.
Yeah, especially now, right? Because there's so much thrown in our direction all the time that we don't feel like is authentic, or it's like feels cookie cutter. I appreciate that acknowledgement, but yeah, that's just how I grew up. That's how music was when I was growing up. It felt real. It felt like they were talking about specific things that had specifically happened to them. Even if you couldn't relate to every line, it was like interesting. That's one of those things, where you won't cut any corners. Like, and if I'm gonna make it, it has to be good, and it has, like, I believe in my taste. I'm insecure in a lot of ways, like a lot of people are, I'm sure, but when it comes to like the taste and knowing what is authentic and what works, which is why I'm starting to sign my own writers and producers to help them do that too, and avoid some of the issues that you run into in this industry. Yeah, it's a valuable thing. It really is. And it becomes more valuable as you get older, which is why focus on being great at one thing.
And I'm glad that you've been able to focus on your talent and really give people great music. And it's always great chatting with you, Bryce. I appreciate this chat, and I'm sure that artists that are looking to further their career, or just honestly dreamers who want to just go out there and do something, is going to feel that sense of encouragement from watching our conversation right now.
I hope so, man. That's all I hope. It's never been a more difficult time to be a young person trying to strive for something in this world. And I think that people take a lot of easy offers, like trying to be an influencer. I'm not saying that's always easy, but it's harder to be good at something and accomplish it more than it ever has. There's so much in the way. So if any advice that I can give to anybody that makes it easier, I want to definitely do that.
So Bryce, let everybody know where they can follow you and stay connected, because if they are not connected, they gotta stay connected with you right now.
At Bryce Fine for everything. MySpace, Instagram. Start with MySpace.
The website looks like MySpace. I love that.
Yeah, that's it. It's all Bryce Fine. I don't always post, but I post funny things sometimes. Hey, man, thanks so much for having me, brother.
Yeah, absolutely.